unless you really want to.
I mean, yeah, whatever. Do the thing.
More conversations. Oh, I gotta figure. Ah, fuck. All right, welcome to the CouncilCast. This is episode 34, recorded on January 30th, 2018. The council is now in session, and as with every week, we'll make arbitrary decisions about topics on science, technology, and random shit with little background and next to no expertise. All CouncilCast decisions are final and have no bearing on anything whatsoever. So the first thing we're talking about tonight,
Next to no expertise. I think it's closer. It's closer on the side of no expertise than on the other side of it.
most likely,
And
especially
also,
with the first
we
topic.
only have 2 people, so does the council have bylaws, or does the council care that quorum is not reached, or
No.
whatever our quorum number may be?
Quorum
All
number is
decisions are
arbitrary.
final. No refunds.
If there's only two votes, then there's only 2 votes.
That's how she goes. It's the way of the road.
That's all you get. So, speaking of things we know absolutely nothing about, we're looking at this test of Einstein's theory that shows that the sun is actually losing its mass. So apparently, this is all related to Einstein's theory of relativity, general relativity, to account for gravity, which apparently they've been able to make some measurements around Mercury that show that the sun is losing its mass as time goes on. So the question is, I don't know. Probably extremely slowly.
I mean, yes. Even if it were a lot, the sun is real big. Fact.
They said, okay, here's how much. It says it's so small that it could cause a broadening of Earth's orbit equal to less than an inch a year.
Wow.
So we're going to slowly get further and further away from the Earth, or from the sun, which means we're probably all going to die.
It's a good thing that we are closer to the inside boundary of the Goldilocks zone than the outside boundary.
I think the more important question is, are we going to expand away from the sun faster than the sun expands itself?
That's an interesting question. Shit. I don't remember how long it would take. Does the sun is ours the type that is supposed to expand out into a red giant of some kind
at some point in time?
Like, it's not black hole size. And was the orbit that the giant would expand out to, was it was further out than Earth's orbit, right?
Yes, it is. Apparently, it should engulf the Earth. I'm assuming at its current level, its current diameter, in 7.6 billion years. I think that said.
Really? Is that how?
So relatively soon.
I mean, everything's just an estimate, right? Like, everything's got a range.
But I'm assuming that that's all taken into account just where it is, where the sun is today, or where the Earth is today with respect to the sun.
Yeah. So if you're talking an inch a year over the next 7 billion years, here you go. The sun will eventually engulf Earth. Maybe. The headline. I mean, we can napkin math this out. Wolfram Alpha, go. Because I don't want to launch some other calculator. Brought to you by Stephen Wolfram. That's his name, right? Stephen?
I think so.
Yeah, whatever. Sure. Stefan? Is he one of those?
Stefan. He's European.
Did 1 inch? You said 1 inch a year?
1 inch a year.
7 point however many billion years? You want me to do 7 just to be conservative?
Nah, do 8 to be on the
8?
edge.
What? God, 8 billion inch years.
Oh God.
Hold on, I did this wrong. I got to do it per year. Created a new unit called inch years. This ain't working.
Oh.
8 billion inches. I could figure that out. moron. All right, so I'm gonna go with it's insignificant because it's only 126,000 miles.
Okay, so I found it. So somebody else did the math for us. So clearly this is right.
What
But
do you mean? If the number is 126,000 miles, I mean, the Earth's orbit varies more than that in a year, doesn't it?
well, here's what I found. So if the Earth is growing at a rate of 1 inch per year, the in terms of its orbit, they
Huh?
say that based on the sun's expansion rate, it only grows 0.85 inches per year in the radius. So we're growing about 1.6 inches per
Right,
year on the
right
diameter.
now.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to get engulfed by the sun.
But
We're all screwed.
I mean, I'm not screwed.
Shit.
I think we're screwed long before that.
Well, I mean, that would definitely be the last part of it. We're probably all dead before the sun even hits us.
I mean, hopefully we've left and went somewhere else by that point. I mean, we're not all screwed all as a race until you know, heat death comes on us and we can't do anything about it.
I mean, I guess we only have 7.6 billion years to figure it out, so.
That's plenty of time. Elon Musk will have figured it out by then.
He'll be having us
Don't
drive
laugh.
Teslas
You know.
around the
What's
sun.
the Earth orbit variation per year? Like, I mean, I guess it's not variation. It's whatever. What's it per? I don't know how to pronounce the words. The furthest amount away from the body you're orbiting and the closest. It's
It
like
has...
a billion or perillion or whatever.
Sure.
This is like the thing that comes up when
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
this is like the thing that comes up when somebody on Facebook is like, if we were 1 foot closer, to, like if the Earth were 1 foot closer to the sun, we'd all burn. If we were 1 foot further away, we'd all freeze. And somebody's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
Okay, so average distance from the sun, and then
well,
the
I want to.
perihelion and the aphelion.
Yeah, thank you. I can't pronounce those.
And so the difference between the perihelion, which is the closest to the sun, and the aphelion is a difference of about 3 million miles.
Yeah, that's the point that people are talking about. It's like, don't give me this 1 foot nonsense. Like,
At one point in the year, we're 3 million miles closer to the moon or to the sun than we were at a different point of the year.
correct.
Clearly, we're all
But I
screwed.
guess in the doc here, you said, "Is this the end?" And I think the answer is absolutely, but not right now.
I think
It's
the
the end
answer
later.
is it's not the end because the sun is still going to expand faster than we will lose. Hopefully,
Okay.
sure. So thumbs up or
What are
thumbs
we
down?
what are we thumbs upping or thumbs downing? Just the general idea of the sun losing mass, or the fact that Einstein was proven right yet again.
Whatever you want.
All right, whichever. Thumbs up, baby.
I'm thumbs
Give it a
down.
thumbs up for science. I don't know where you get your you were pretty liberal with your thumbs downs. I don't like it.
Oh, I have I felt like I was pretty liberal with thumbs up the last couple weeks, so I
You're
think I need to
just
change it up a little bit.
you gotta let it even out.
I had to
All right,
balance it
so
out.
you get to tell me about this next thing because all I know is the name. I've only seen I've seen the name and heard a little bit of criticism.
So the big thing here is Nintendo announced or came out with this new project called Labo. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I don't
Labo.
I don't know how else I would pronounce that at first try. I thought Labo. I wouldn't think it was Labo. But
Labo.
Labo. Labo. I don't know.
So anyway, what it is they apparently you can buy some cardboard from Nintendo, and you can use it to fold it into shapes and stuff like that, and you can plug your Nintendo Switch into it, and you can do certain things that are kind of VR-esque, you could say.
You mean kind of like Google VR
Kind
or
of,
Google
except
Cardboard, whatever it was called?
It kind of, except for the fact that it's not a headset. There
Oh.
are some things that are headset-esque, but like one of the things is you can actually turn your Switch into like a piano that's made of cardboard, and then you can play the piano and it actually plays music type of thing.
Hmm.
Or you can buy this thing that has like a backpack that you can put on and you turn into a robot, and then that's more like the Google VR thing. But
Seems
the
like somebody in the shipping and receiving department was like, you know what we got way too much of? Boxes. And then they had a meeting with upper management and they were like, we got an idea for these boxes. And those guys were like, we love it. They're gonna eat this shit up. All these guys, all these consumers are so dumb. They're gonna buy every freaking cardboard thing we try to sell them. How much does it cost? If it's free, I'm gonna sound like an
it's
asshole.
definitely not free. It is.
Oh,
So some of the criticism is that it is a little expensive. I think you can buy the starter kit for like $60,
for
$80
cardboard?
for cardboard.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Where's the? I bet there's a GitHub repo right now with an open
So
source version of this thing.
that's exactly the thing, is that I can't imagine that they're going to be able to sell this for forever, because
Well,
how
no,
many
it's
people are just going
cardboard.
to copy it and then just say print out this thing and cut it
This
out
ain't
with
like charging
cardboard?
$120 for a Lego set when like I can't just go stamp out Legos like in the backyard. I got cardboard boxes all over the place that I could just
Yeah.
start. Maybe it's not the right quality or whatever, but if I can take a cardboard box and just template this shit out.
Plus, I mean, it's not going to last forever. So, I mean, if you can imagine this is being marketed towards kids, I mean, how quickly is a kid going to
Oh, they're
break
gonna.
an $80 piece of cardboard?
You know how pissed I'd be if my kid broke an $80 piece of cardboard? I'd be annoyed that I bought it, annoyed that my kid wanted it, and then annoyed that he broke it. Like screw this thing. Get your kids some fucking Lego Connects or some shit.
Can't
Like,
break that.
okay, well you can break that, but at least you can get the damn thing and like program it and stuff, or Technic, whichever one is like the one to program. Those are, I
Yeah.
mean, shit. I want those.
So I don't know. It's an interesting idea. They kind of talk. I mean, there's a lot of cool things that they're talking about doing with it. I just don't see it as being a very practical thing.
Yeah, this is fairly ridiculous.
I mean, it's kind of cool, but
I mean, all like a lot of the stuff I'm looking at in these gifs or videos in this article, like some of it's like, yeah, that's. I mean, I could see why you might think that's kind of cool, but I ain't paying like $80 for some cardboard.
well, yeah. And I would like do this once and then be like, that was cool, and then never touch it ever
Yeah,
again.
break the cardboard down, recycle it, burn
And
it
then I'd be
for
pissed that I
for
recycled
warmth.
my cardboard that cost $80.
Yeah, I mean, I already know how I'm voting on this.
So is there anything that's innovative here that you're like, that's better than anything else you've ever seen?
No,
Is this really an answer to VR from Nintendo or
I have no
not?
idea.
Well,
No, I mean, who wants to like take the Labo thing and wear it on your head for a while? Like, I can't imagine it's like this fancy pants cardboard thing that fits real nice and like whatever.
definitely not.
I don't know who came up with this shit.
All right, what is your vote on it?
I mean, I think you already know. Give her the old
Matt's voting
thumbs
a
down.
Matt's a thumbs down. I'm gonna thumbs down it too. I just can't imagine paying that much for cardboard.
No way in hell.
That's a little ridiculous. So anyway, speaking of anything that's not ridiculous that you could spend your cold hard cash on, is the Amazon debuting their cashier-free store in Seattle.
So I am all for this ever since I heard about it because I think it's cool technology, and I don't expect, and I have again, I haven't read this article, so I might be talking right out of my ass. I don't expect that Amazon's plan is to just straight up build these everywhere, but
I
they
would imagine
they
not.
they did buy Whole Foods, right? That was Amazon.
Yes. Yes.
What I do imagine is that they might take like this is their test bed for this technology. Like
Hmm.
this is like they want to make this shit work and do it with as little what's it called? Drop rate isn't the right word. It's however much merchandise is stolen or lost during the period of operation. I just saw the
Oh.
term the other day and I can't remember. And it's not drop, it's not burn, it's damn it, I really can't remember because I think they were talking about this exact scenario. Was like you would think like the rate of like stuff that you lose would be pretty high, and somebody's like it's already really high in places like grocery stores and like Target and
Probably
Walmart and
true.
stuff like that. Like, can the technology do a better job of tracking the stuff? Um, and I remember when I first heard of this, like when they first started talking about doing this and having this like camera technology and stuff and all this stuff that watches what you pull off the shelves to charge you and all that junk,
Hmm.
right? That's this store. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
I remember saying that I would freaking love to be on the QA team for this store. Like working for Amazon, doing like the physical QA of trying to break the technology, like would be a freaking blast. Like trying all the shit you can, right? Like how good is this technology? Can like walking into the store, picking something, leaving it picking up something, leaving it somewhere else because
Mhm.
everybody, hey, there's a 6 pack of Deschutes fresh squeezed on that shelf that I'm looking at.
Yep.
Um you you hand you somebody's shopping with you, you hand it to them, they hand it to somebody else, they hand it back to you. You like and see, I haven't really read up on how this technology is working from that regard, but and these are all scenarios that I would think they would be testing, right? Or
Right.
like or gathering data on. So my guess is long-term plan for them on this technology is one, they've got all of their Whole Foods that they could implement it in. So all the freaking Whole Foods cashiers better start thinking about where they're going to get jobs. And uh, if this technology is good enough, everyone else is going to want it. Like they could
Yeah.
sell this shit. Like
Oh
Target,
yeah.
Hy-Vee, Walmart. Like who isn't going to want this technology? Maybe I'm wrong, but if it works well and the rate of stuff going missing is lower than it is with cashiers or whatever,
Hmm.
like, but I mean, what's stopping me from just walking into the Amazon store and taking something and walking out? I guess was that the did they address that in this article at all? Do you know?
Well, as far as walking in,
I
you
was
have to
looking at the
walk.
pictures. Do I have to scan my Amazon app to even get in the place?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. But that's I mean that's a physical security barrier. How good is it really? Do they have like a security guard there that's making sure?
Probably not.
Yeah, I'm looking at the little stalls right now. So yeah, I mean, it looks like there's an employee there, so he could be
But
like, but that's yeah.
is he going to be there all the time?
I mean, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, if you can't get in without scanning your app, I think that's probably a decent step to, you know, because it's an actual decent physical barrier. Like you,
If
like
you're
hopping that barrier is
single
a
person.
non-trivial thing. Like it's going to be noticeable.
Right.
It's not just like
And maybe
walking
there's
into a store.
some alarm too that goes off if like somebody's inside the store because obviously once you're in the store, all of these cameras and everything are tracking everybody who's there. So if they
Yeah,
know somebody is there who didn't scan in, does it call the police or something like
yeah, I
that?
don't
Or
know. So on the shelving,
Mhm.
do you know, are there like pressure sensors and all this stuff, or is it completely visually based? There's got to be
um,
other sensors
it
that they're going on.
I was looking at, they don't really say about it anything about it in the article, but it does. I was looking at some pictures, and some of the pictures showed like sensors inside the shelves. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming they must have some shelving sensors that are telling them, either how full or how empty the shelves are for
So, I mean, you can start to think about how they might start to do some of this stuff, and then you can try to start to think of how you might break it, I guess. Like, if they've got like weight sensors of some kind on like each individual line or something
Mhm.
like that, and I don't know, I'm just making shit up here. You like if you're tracking a person from the time they enter, you could know that they are like they can only be in front of a very small section of stuff, right? So
Yeah.
if they're right there and they grab the bag of pistachios and then the bag of pistachios line goes down by the weight of one bag, like you know what they've taken. It's a bag of pistachios, but like
Oh, I see what you're saying.
but
Yeah.
you could, but that it's not. You can't just go by that because you could get into other shit, like the whole Indiana Jones. Replace it with something of equal weight. Like, what do they actually have now? Like all of that stuff. So it's got to be completely multi sensor or something. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I really want to read a fairly in depth article about how this technology is operating.
Yeah, so this article doesn't really talk too much about how it works, but it does kind of
Yeah,
address that issue about how it knows what you're taking. And from the
yeah.
sounds of it, it's not it does sound like it is all visual, but it has
Oh,
cameras
really?
literally everywhere in the store. And
Yeah,
from
I
the
mean,
sounds of
if
it,
you look at the ceiling in one of these pictures, it's like holy shit.
yeah, and it sounds like cameras are even going into the individual shelves. So if you're standing in front of
Ah,
a shelf, there's a camera looking down the aisle or down the shelf or whatever and saying, "Oh, you
interesting.
actually picked this up." So I'm assuming they're doing some composites
I
to
would
try.
love to read a white paper on this, like both how they're doing it from a hardware perspective on the inside of the store and how much like processing power and what technologies they use
Oh
to
yeah.
power what of their AWS services they use to power like one store, like a store of this size. Like it's not too big, it's decent size. Like how many people can it track at a time?
Yep.
Uh, does does the amount of people that you need to track and the products that you need to track, like does that cause the processing power you need? Like if there's 10 people in your store versus 20 people in your store, is 20 people double the amount of power that has to be, like do you need 20% the or double the amount of processing power to do that? That's kind of, I don't know, it's a really
That's an interesting
interesting
question
thing.
for sure.
um and this reminded me of, I saw a video in my video feed. I think I'm subscribed to Linus Tech Tips uh, video channel or video
Yeah.
whatever it is, YouTube
YouTube.
channel.
Yep.
And I think he had a headline, I think, on a video I just saw. Haven't watched it yet, but I think the title of the video was they went to this store and stole a box of tampons. So
Like a regular store or
no,
the
like this
Amazon
one, the
store.
Amazon
Oh,
one.
okay.
I think they actually got out without paying. I'll have to go look at the YouTube video, but uh, I'm
From
curious.
everything I've read so far about it, it seems like they do a pretty good job of capturing everything that you pick up.
Yeah, I would love to see
But I think,
how.
like you said, so what if some people take things that still happens today in existing stores? And I think you're right that this is a cool thing that is very convenient for people, but the trade-off is that it's also a benefit to those companies as well. They're not doing it just to make it more convenient for you, but if they can cut down on the amount of loss and theft from their own stores, it
Yeah,
seems
here
like
you
a good
go.
way of doing it.
This here. I'm reading the R's article. En route to completing my first Amazon Go purchase, I tried so hard to trip up the watching me all the time system. I took items out, perused them as if I cared about their ingredients, and put them back. I picked up an item, examined it, then reached deeply into the shelf to get the quote unquote fresh item in the back. I juggled my DSLR camera, my smartphone, and various products. I picked certain stuff up, picked the same thing up again, then went back to put all those multiples back on the shelf. And then in parentheses, he says, update. I went back to Amazon Go a second time while drinking a Coke I had purchased during my first trip, then picked up and returned the same type of can while sipping on my paid for drink. But really, there wasn't much I could do to mess the system up uh, outside of putting things in the wrong place. Amazon Go, for the most part, is designed to make the process of quote unquote, oh, I changed my mind, very visually clean. Shelves are stocked with shape and color variety in mind, and they have rigid item placement spots. Those factors combine to make it very difficult to put stuff where Amazon doesn't want you to. Got the wrong butter? There's only one reasonable place to return the butter of your discontent. So it looks like
Yeah.
there's a number of things, right? Like they use a number like technical things, physical
Hmm.
things to limit kind of how you're doing it. Um, there's a glitches in the system part of the article here that I want to read that I think might contain some of the stuff that I'm talking about. But
No, mostly what they're talking about in the glitches system is like returning things and doing
huh?
alcohol purchases. So
Doing what purchases?
returning things and alcohol.
I mean, alcohol's always tricky when you're
Yeah.
taking
So like
people out of it because you gotta check an ID.
right, so for the alcohol they
But
actually have to have somebody there checking IDs. And then
yeah,
the return thing is that it's just kind of weird to do the returns because there really isn't anywhere to take your return to.
right. You can't take it back to the shelf.
Yeah, they definitely say don't put it back on the shelf, but what you're supposed to do is you return it in the app and then you're supposed to just give it to somebody who's there
Uh huh.
and then it returns it.
Interesting.
But
Yeah. No. I mean, there's only one of these, right, in Seattle?
yes. Yep.
I think it'd be interesting to go. If I'm in the area, I'm curious to know whether any of the guys we know from the Seattle area have stopped by it. I
I don't
think
know.
Zypher might have said he did. I can't remember. I thought somebody mentioned something about stopping by it. But yeah, I would love. I can't wait to read if they release any of the information about how they tested it. You know, what kind of stuff they
Mhm.
did, like all that junk. But I would think they might be playing this tech pretty close to their chest
I would imagine.
if they think it could be a good moneymaker. And you would think that nearly every, well, maybe the department stores and like Targets and WalMarts and stuff might not be going for it so much because it sounds like it requires a lot of rigid placement type things too and very expensive shelving. So yeah,
I
I don't
I
know.
think from a department store standpoint, it'd be much more difficult to implement because of that, because you've got a lot of more different size things. But I
Yeah,
think the grocery store makes a lot more sense because typically grocery stores are lined up with like things in like areas, and you
yeah,
don't typically have a lot of variation from there.
maybe.
But if you go to the department store, you pick something up off the rack, you could hang it up on a rack somewhere else fairly easily.
Yeah. I guess it makes more sense to think of it only from grocery stores, but I start to think of Target that's got a grocery section and a non-grocery section.
True, true.
So anyway, no, that's
I think it's cool, and I'd be interested to go and see it and try it.
yeah. I'm not gonna make a trip to Seattle specifically to try it.
Probably not, but I'll give it a thumbs up.
Oh yeah, thumbs up for sure. It's a cool tech. I think it's great for specific stuff like do they carry everything or is it kind of very much tailored towards the oh I got to pick up a couple things like and you
I
run in and grab them and you're out or do you get a shopping cart and you fill your shopping cart or your bags or whatever?
I think for the most part it should carry. I mean, it looks like a physically smaller store, so I mean you're probably
Like can
limited
I go
by
there and
that.
buy groceries like cucumbers and apples and shit?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Really?
Yeah,
Huh. Yeah, I need to read way more about it than the initial stuff I
yeah.
read
They've got
like
pop,
6
vegetables,
months ago.
yogurt, bunch of milk, creamer, whatever you want.
All right. Yeah, thumbs up.
Yeah.
Thumbs up for sure.
Cool. So the next thing up, speaking of technology, cool technology, is VR helping other people. So I think this is kind of a new thing that I thought was pretty interesting. Was that the U.S. Olympic ski and snowboard teams,
Mhm.
as they prep for the Olympics in South Korea this year, are using VR to actually practice the exact race that they're going to be going down.
I mean, it makes total sense, right? It's the same
Yeah.
shit pilots have been doing for years, like in training simulators.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, you could just fucking text message. You can hop on. I mean, there's people that play flight simulators enough, and if they're accurate enough, I mean, shit, you could hop in a Cessna or to some extent, I think the A10 Warthog simulator stuff is pretty accurate when it comes to like even startup sequence and all that stuff. Like,
Right.
so I mean, I'm sure there's some major like specific details left out, but shit, I think even the uh, aviation subreddit suggests like when you're going to start taking flight lessons and shit, that it's not a bad idea to have like X Plane or Microsoft Flight Simulator to do like to practice like ground operations and changing the
Mhm.
radio and where the buttons are in the particular aircraft you're gonna use.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Like, I mean, it's just an extension of that. Is like if you can get a leg up by using VR to practice the exact route that you're gonna do,
Well, yeah,
that's
and I think just like with planes, it's fairly difficult to get into your plane as often as you probably want to
oh,
practice. And
absolutely.
same thing on the ski courses is these guys aren't out there. You can't go and ski this 100 times a year because it's only going to be there for the Olympics. So
Yeah, but
if
you
you
can
can,
you can come home and crank out 10 runs a night on VR.
right. So the question I have though is how long until this actually becomes something that's regulated though? I mean, I would imagine this would give some
Don't know.
teams a pretty large, as we were talking about, pretty large leg up if you already know what the course is versus somebody who has only been on it a half dozen times or so.
I mean, that's gonna be wouldn't that mostly be a cost-based argument that
Yeah,
they can't afford the VR systems, so they can't practice as much as the other teams?
probably, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a
So
good question.
I think it's a very cool use of the technology and very useful, more than just playing games in VR. But
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of applications for VR that we haven't even really explored yet. And I mean, this is
yeah,
just a sporting one. It's not really all that particularly human enriching, but
right. Well, and I think the important thing is it's gotten cheap enough that people can do this. Previous VR simulations probably had room scale type of screened in rooms that you could sit in, and that's fairly expensive to do. So
did they talk about it being extremely beneficial? Like what do you because you're not depending on how advanced your VR setup is. I mean, you're not getting the full effect of actually moving and actually getting the muscle memory down. Like you're
right.
getting it to the point where you're like, yeah, I get a general feel for the course layout and like how that goes, but it's very very different when you actually get out there on the skis or in the bobsled or
Yeah, and I don't know.
whatever.
It doesn't really talk about this. I mean, they're just saying that the Olympic team is working with a company. So, I mean, I would assume that there's probably a little bit more to it than just watching a video all the time.
Yeah.
But to what extent it is, I don't really know. But I mean, I think even just the planning, though, if you know, okay, I got to turn right, turn left, and you're just maybe practicing it on the floor, that's
Yeah.
still more
I mean,
than
it's still
not.
so okay. Like the counter argument against well, I didn't really say that it's bad, but like the counter to what I just said or something to point out would be uh like if I'm gonna go drive over in Germany, the Nürburgring, right?
Hmm.
I've played it so many times on different racing sims or racing games that I already know the track. And that you pit it may say I've driven it 100 times, I've done 100 laps, and I'm gonna go up against somebody that's driven around it once. I have the advantage. I know the track like
Right.
the back of my hand. That person's driven one lap. They don't know every corner coming up, how late they can brake because they haven't built that solid memory of the track yet.
Yep.
So that's I mean it's kind of that thing.
Yeah.
So
So I think it's cool. I'll give it a thumbs up because I think it's interesting to see what they'll do with it.
oh yeah, I'm gonna give it a thumbs up. I mean the general idea of doing practice stuff in VR is not new.
I mean, I could
Um,
even see something like this. Like, how many times have you gone? I don't know, maybe you don't haven't done it, but I'm assuming other people do this too. Like, if you were driving somewhere new for the first time, you're gonna go look up the directions, and then you're maybe gonna do some street view looking, and you're maybe gonna figure out, exactly what's around you, so that when you get there, you're not just guessing.
sure.
But I mean, imagine if you could just put on a VR headset and just literally drive that entire route before you even go and do it.
I mean, the downside being is you have to if it's taking you 20 minutes to get there,
Well, maybe
you
you
have
play
to
it on
do
fast forward or
it's
something.
not quite the Matrix where it's like plug me in and then have me drive the route in like super fast accelerated speed and I know kung fu now, right?
Yes.
Like, we're not quite there. I hope we can get there. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, speaking of, what was the unit you just created not that long ago?
The crap, the inch year.
Inshare.
Yeah.
So, speaking of inventing new units, not only can you invent units, but Facebook invents units.
Oh man. I read this a little bit. I didn't. It looked like I didn't really fully understand it. It looked like it was mostly for video editing of some kind.
Yes. So I initially read this article and I really dismissed it as being like, Facebook's just doing something dumb.
Is it
And
not
then
actually?
well, then I read a little bit. I saw a lot more people writing about it, and I read a little bit more
Like
about
are
it.
actual video content makers excited about the fact? Like, does it help them?
And that's what's a little unclear is that it sounds like it could help them, but the problem is I don't know if anybody's going to adopt this unit of time
So
because
it looks like it's no. You can correct me if I'm wrong here because you certainly know more about it than I do. But from skimming it, it looks like they're making it so that it makes the math and correlation to
yes,
frame rates
correct.
better rather than being really shitty math.
Yep. Yeah, so because the big deal is that when you're trying to do video editing and placing visual effects is that you have to have all of your stuff kind of match up in terms of timing, otherwise it's
Yeah,
going to look off.
yeah,
And so that what they're saying is that visual effects artists, producers, programmers, blah 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 blah, they all work like down to the nanoseconds because that's how accurate they have to be to get everything to line up with the frame rating and everything.
uh-huh.
So they invented this new unit of time called a flick, which is slightly larger than a nanosecond, and but it exactly subdivides a media frame rate and sampling frequencies. So instead of saying that this frame takes whatever 1.367 nanoseconds, it actually takes one flick. Is
Okay.
the idea. So that
Okay,
you
yeah,
get
interesting.
like
I
you
mean, I think it's not necessarily a bad thing to if you're going to chunk your times up better to match the standard frame rate stuff that we're
Mhm.
doing if it makes that easier. But I don't know what kind of adoption it's going to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think just like almost anything else, there's still going to be some conversion rate from that to nanoseconds, I would
Yeah.
assume. So are people still going to just work in nanoseconds, but refer to it as flicks, or vice versa? Or I mean, are you going to be able to buy a camera that actually records all the way down to flicks, and I have flicks as a unit of time? I don't really know, um, but it's kind of an interesting idea. I just don't think
Yeah.
it's going to take off.
I don't
So
know. I don't know enough about it. I'm going to give a solid sideways thumb.
I'm going to give it a thumbs down because I don't think Facebook should invent new units of time.
Such criticism.
So, two other interesting articles from this week. I had put this on mostly because of Pat, but a drone apparently saved the lives of two boys in Australia.
Uh-huh.
So little did you know that you can not only spy on people with your drone, but you could save them too.
Makes sense. I mean, it looks like it just dropped the rescue pod. Just dropped the rescue pod, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's unclear, but it sounds like the boys got stranded out in the water, and
Yeah.
this drone flew out a safety raft or whatever.
Is that was it? Would that be like? Were they at like a beach? I mean, would that be like uh
I would assume they were at a beach and got,
there was a lifeguard at their station and they just got a drone on the top of the damn thing and they're like, "Just go out there, drop the pod."
yeah, that's what I'm assuming happened. Yeah,
Eh,
because they said that
interesting.
the lifeguard is the guy who did it, and they're like, oh, it only took 70 seconds for the drone to fly out there, which I'm assuming is significantly faster than a dude to swim out there.
Oh yeah, I mean it completely depends on the problem too, right? Like if
But
somebody's having a heart attack
yeah,
out in the water, giving a pod isn't necessarily gonna be the
I mean,
best for them. But I guess if you're having a heart attack out in the water, you're probably gonna die anyway. But
I'm sorry.
yeah, it sucks.
I mean, until they can have this drone actually pick the dude up or something like that, probably. That's what I
Yeah,
was hoping this video was, is
it's
that
not,
it picked up kids out of the water
yeah,
and
this
blew
isn't
them
a
to
bad
safety.
idea. It's a good use of technology, I think.
I think it's interesting. I think the useful cases are limited. I think this is a good example of it. Um, Search and rescue is probably another good example because you can deploy these things pretty quickly. So I'll give it a thumbs up.
Also
All
thumbs
right.
up.
Last item is
There's another item.
There's one more item, and I
I
saved
only
the best for
I
last.
don't see the other item.
Really?
I only
Haven't you?
see under other cool / weird shit. I have Facebook invents a new unit of time, and a drone saves 2 kids.
Oh, well, if you ever wondered what would happen if you bit into a battery, you can now find out.
Oh really?
I'll send this to you in case you don't have it.
I
So,
mean, I don't care about biting into a battery. I really want to know though. Can I eat my Tide Pod?
maybe
Holy
bite into
shit!
your
What the?
battery
Oh,
first.
dude, the battery just fucking goes off. I think I had read this maybe actually. Now that I see this in the headline, I think I remember.
So, for whatever
Yeah, this is
reason,
from the 23rd.
this
Why
dude
does he put it?
decided that he's in China and he decided that while he's waiting for his phone to be repaired, he's going to bite into his battery.
That's a
And
terrible idea, especially with those types of batteries.
and he literally has it explode in his face.
Yeah. I mean, I mean,
I
there's
haven't
so much news about cell phone batteries exploding on planes and in places they weren't supposed to. What made you think it was a good idea to bite it?
or to even put it in your mouth.
I don't I don't know. I mean, everybody when they're kids taking a 9 volt and put it on their tongue.
I mean, I guess we also eat Tide Pods now, like you
Well,
said,
I don't
so
eat Tide Pods. I prefer better dinner than that. Not
I
much
mean
better, but better than detergent.
I mean you're not hungry for detergent?
No,
What about batteries? You might be able to eat them.
kinda. I like my dinner to be explosive.
Maybe on the wrong end.
What happened to the guy?
They said that apparently nobody was injured, which I find extremely hard to
How did
believe
his
based
teeth
on that
not blow out?
explosion.
That's a pretty good sized explosion.
I mean, how did he not get a burn on his face at all?
It looks like okay, watch this again. It's the guy in black, right, with the hat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he bites and then pulls his hand away with it, and then it goes
Then
off.
yeah.
Like I didn't notice that at first. I thought it was going off in his mouth. Yeah, I think he's lucky as hell. Had that went off like inside the area of his mouth, oh my god,
Yeah. Yeah,
that
you're
could have
right. It
ended
does
way
look like he's
worse.
kind of pulling away and
Yeah, he pulls it away to I think look at it. Like, what's the deal here? And then it explodes in his face.
he probably bites it and is like, "Is this gold?" and then looks at it and is like, "No, it fucking exploded."
Yeah, whatever. That's ridiculous.
I think the dude's an idiot. I'm gonna give him a thumbs down
You're
because
gonna give him the
that's
thumbs
just
down,
dumb.
man. I think yeah, also thumbs down. But man, I really want to give him a thumbs up for just having the balls to bite the battery.
Uh,
It's so dumb though. Yeah, that's thumbs down for sure.
I mean, if he was smarter, then maybe I'd give him a thumbs sideways, but
Yeah,
there's no way that passes the smart test.
no.
All right, so I think that's all the topics I've got. And with that, the council meeting is adjourned. So if you liked what you saw and want to check out all the past episodes of the CouncilCast, you can go to councilcast.org. And also, all of the podcasts are recorded live on YouTube, but you can also find the audio files on iTunes. If you have a topic you'd like the council's decision on, you can email us at councilcast@gmail.com or connect with us on Twitter at the CouncilCast or on Facebook by searching CouncilCast. Thanks for listening and goodbye.
Goodbye.